Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well. And today, my friends, we're back with the Nurgle vs. Kislev showdown. It's going to be the Exalted Great Unclean One facing off against the Tsarina Katarine, coming in with one of the more dreaded builds of Kislev. Now, the meta for land battles for Kislev against Nurgle, against Khorne, against Slaanesh is basically just to have double Patriarch, double Big Bear. You can go with a variety of lords. For example, you could have Kostalton and an Ice Caster, but the real epicenter of the build is the double Elemental Bear backed up by double Patriarch of some sort to really spam the heals, and then War Sleds, because War Sleds are extremely overtuned right now. Of course, they will be getting nerfed relatively soon, but still very, very strong. They do a ton of DPS in melee, and they just sit in a blob, they heal, and they can outblob Nurgle, which is very tough. Now, here's my build against it, which I've had varying degrees of success. The big thing has been the Exalted Plague Bearers, because these guys have the Holy Hand Grenades, so they can sit and actually do some really good range damage against the Elemental Bears, and they're also quite tanky and resilient in those blob fights, so going for the more durable units. We do also have the Cultist of Nurgle, Soulgrinder of Nurgle, just in case they have a box. Some Kislevites wouldn't go for a build like this. They would be using like more elite infantry like Zargard and whatnot, so having the big Soulgrinder to bombard these elite box I think is very, very essential. We got some Nurglings, some flyers up in the sky, Plague Drones of Nurgle, and Rotflies, and that is it for my build with a couple Nurglings tickling the pickle on the side. Now for my opponent's build here, it is going to be some Horse Archers, so 1, 2, 3 of the sleds as well. So we do have the Light War Sleds, and the front line here is going to be Kossars, backed up by the old Kossars. Yeah, so Kossars on Kossars, and yeah, of course Nurgle's pretty weak against shooting. Kossars have good damage, and if he's able to pull back his Kossars once the engagement happens, and then unleash hell into my light armor, that could be pretty rough for sure. Katarine is here also. Katarine's going to be on foot, which I think is a decent choice, although... what is this? Have you guys seen this before? What is that animation? She's like one of those like toy robots from like the 1950s who like wind up its arm. Oh my god, what a meme that was. But yeah, we do have some good swarming elements also. We have the Plague Drones, which are the elite variant. I like the Plague Drones quite a little bit more than the Rotflies, so my initial assessment on those was very, very off. Now, the first charge is going to be coming in, Light War Sleds running over my poor Nurglings, and I do countercharge with some Flyers. Granted, the Big Bear Sleds are so hard to catch, and they have really, really good durability as well. So he's able to pull away. Now the big firepower is going to be coming in as the Exalted Plague Bears start to get hammered. And on the other side, my poor Nurglings are going to get run over by the Light War Sled, so I do detach the big man to go deal with it, but there comes a point when you just have to realize it's not going to go well. Let's just get into the main bulk of the army, and hopefully our cultists and our elite infantry can actually waste his ammo. Now here comes some Chaos Furies looking to jump on the Horse Archers, and we do get a decent charge there. Horse Archers only have 22 melee defense, so these guys are quite a bit squishier than many of the Kossar units, who I suppose have higher HP pools. Nice Bear Breath attack right there on the Exalted Plague Bearers is going to be applying Frostbite and slowing them down. Well, we do get another summon in the front, so the Plague Bears do pile out of the warp, and these big potbelly boys going to be surrounding the Kossars here. So we get a catch, we get a sandwich, which is cool, and yeah. Oh my god, that guy just karate kicked that Plague Bear there. I feel like that's not the most effective like attack against like a demon unit like that. But huge breath attack, really, really good cast for my opponent. His bears have been quite strong, and the Kossars are unbreakable for long periods of time, so at the end of the day, it is kind of holding things in place. Now, here in the back, Chaos Furies swarming into the Horse Archers, and here we do get the Exalted Plague Bears. 65 models going on like champs. Katarine getting a nice wind blast there. Does take down many of the Kossars, but I suppose the attrition is worth it to the Kislevites to try and wear down my more elite units. Now the popcorn units are moving around the side, so the Nurglings are going to be swarming in. Nurglings should probably defeat Kossars in combat, actually. I think just their HP pool and the poison and their staying power due to the fact that they're demons will probably get them there, but I don't know if that really matters. The sleds are the problem and the bears are the problems, right? And I'm taking a lot of damage in my army. One unit of Plague Bears is pretty much in the trash can, so too is the other one. And it looks like the forces of Kislev are going to be kiting back now and trying to pull me in a couple different directions, which is good considering I'm slow. And Nurgle does like the blob fight, although at the end of the day, this may be a boon of sorts, because by him not having a Patriarch blob and healing, and Heart of Winter is really the nasty way of doing it. We saw this with Randomnix winning the faction war that we had with Kislev. Basically what he did, right, is he just blobbed up on the bears and used Heart of Winter, so when Nurgle inevitably blobbed on him, he had the Heart of Winter. But my build is teched against that, because the Plague Bears could probably do a ton of damage against the big blob, and also we have the Mortar to break the box as well, so it's not like my build is helpless against it. And we also have a Great Unclean One. From what we saw in the tournament and the faction war, I don't think many people use the Greater Demons, although I think the Khorne game, we did see that in the Grand Finals. Yeah, I think Bobman did a really good job with Khorne, but it's just so hard to stop for sure. So here are the Kossars getting taken to town by Nurglings, as well as the Soulgrinder, which is another powerful single entity fighter. And the armored Kossars being chased by Nurglings. I'm not sure where they're running. They could probably just turn and fight and beat down these Nurglings, especially with the support of the bears. So a little bit of a mistake there. But the Great Unclean One trying his best, working in the front to drag down the Kossars. We're about 4 minutes into the battle right now, and it's still rolling. Most Nurgle games do go a little ways. I mean, there are games occasionally where Nurgle will just get absolutely destroyed. But in my experience, Nurgle matches and land battles are a little bit longer than many others. Like, if this was a Slaanesh or a Khorne game, I feel like it would have been more or less decided by now. Soul Grinder doing good though. Soul Grinder using its high speed, 75 speed, to chase down the light war sled, which is poison. Soul Grinder, of course, has poison attack, so very useful against the war sleds. And the other war sled charging in, but the big man is nearby and is getting some good DACA. But also my opponent doing a good job isolating some of my chaff around the battlefield and just maneuvering and dragging me through the mud. Katarine being on foot does make her a little bit easier to catch. And does she have Heart of Winter? No. She has Ice Shard, Death Frost, and Crystal Sanctuary. So I think that's definitely a big misplay in terms of the spell composition. I think Heart of Winter against Nurgle and melee demonic factions is just so destructive for sure. So we're still bumping and grinding. The elemental bears have fallen back. The OP war sleds running circles around my army. Here I do use the Fleshy Abundance to try and keep some infantry fighting, and I believe the Soul Grinder was taking some pot shots into the light war sled, which is really haggard, but you know, I'm like, the infantry of Kislev here aren't a problem. It's not like they're Tsar Guard or elite units that you actually need to wear down, so I think using the ammunition from the Soul Grinder here is probably justified. Anyways, back in the fight, Nurglings just trolling about, being run over by sleds, and they're going to be turning into bowling balls and tumbling. Whoever at Creative Assembly did the animations for Nurglings deserves a raise, because this is like some of the most glorious movement animations I've ever seen. Look at them just like swaying like a tree in the breeze. And the bowling ball I think is my favorite when they go to attack, because when they run they go into the shoulder stacking one, but when they actually want to attack they use the bowling ball animation, which I think is quite hilarious. Now here we do get the Soul Grinder downtown, shooting into the Kossars, definitely getting some good work in there, and we'll try and push back the Kossars. But now they're starting to kind of go the direction of the dreaded blob, which is certainly not something I'm looking forward to. Breath attack from the bear there, doing some good work. And my Plague Bear is just getting melted as I try and approach, and we have a good old-fashioned standoff. I still do have my Plague Drones of Nurgle, so I have some good armor piercing there. Going to be chasing down these light war sleds. Hopefully be able to get some damage. I mean, in theory, they should counter them. They're faster. They have armor piercing and poison, but for some reason, the Plague Drones actually do lose head-to-head against war sleds. If they just continue running, the shooting plus the melee DPS still wins you the fight. But we do get the poison. Here comes the Soul Grinder. Going to be getting his big old power fist and hopefully doing some big damage against the sleds. Yeah, they're able to squeak away, though. Very maneuverable, pretty good mass on those guys, and they're going to be cackling all the way to the bank. Now, on the other side, nice catch. My Nurglings are going to get punished by the light war sled, so there's pretty much no chance these things will survive. They're now unstable. They're going to start crumbling, and say goodnight, sweet prince. You guys are going back to the garden to hang out with Big Papa. He will for sure not punish you. I mean, I feel like Nurgle isn't going to punish his Nurglings and whatnot. He'll be like, it's okay, I'll get you. You'll get him next time, big guy. But I feel like the mortals are maybe a little bit more susceptible to being punished by Big Papa. Although, yeah, I guess the whole lore thing for Nurgle is like, you know, his followers, he obviously, allegedly treats them well with these gifts. These, I suppose you could call them gifts. They go by many names. Cultists of Nurgle are another big aspect of this matchup. These guys have armor sundering, so if you're fighting like a patriarch blob, they can get through what little armor the patriarchs have and really do good damage. Also, sundering the armor of the light war sleds down to 40, which is probably where they should be from a balance perspective anyways, is very, very good. So light war sleds broken back. We got the two elemental bears and the sleds. And at this point in the game, I kind of felt like it was going okay, but I still ultimately felt like I was going to lose. Because, you know, he's got the two patriarchs, he's got Katarine, but if I can get a pick here, that'd be quite nice. And the really more degenerate version of this Kislev build likes to use them on bears, which I think is smart because they have more armor and are more durable. On foot, I suppose they're a little bit like cheaper and you can get a wider force of Kossars like we saw in this game. But I do think that the foot-based variant is going to be tricky because they're very squishy, right? They only have 20 armor on the patriarch. So now he's getting attacked by the two cultists. We have the Soul Grinder in there, and the Great Unclean One battling the bear sleds over there should be able to do some work. In the meantime, we'll use the Plague Drones of Nurgle to go chase down some of these routing units, and we'll see what kind of good times we can make happen here. So here they come, Cultists of Nurgles, getting the circle beating here on the old Patriarch. Oh my god, that guy just did like a WWE move and knocked over his buddy, but the Patriarch gets absolutely slapped up there. And we do also use, I think, Rancid Visitations here in a second, because I know this is the only healing for the Elemental Bears. So Rancid Visitations is like kind of like a Nurgle Spear Leech ability from the Lord Nurgle, and there we have it, the Patriarch getting melted by the Plague, and down he goes, absolutely taken out. Rasputin once again defeated as he was IRL. So there goes the Cultists of Nurgles. And now they're going to be moving over the chariots, I think, trying to get away from the blob of bears. I mean, this is still really foul, and the balance of power is pretty even at this point. The Plague Drones are doing their best to chew up some of these units, the cultists moving in, and now we get the big fight of fights. One chariot almost broken, trying to kill the mobility here so we can't like cycle charge and run around. And also the Plague Drone is doing a really good job against armored Kossars. I wonder if their value's breached like 700 or 800 yet. I mean, they've been fighting mostly cheaper melee units, but only 400 unfortunately. But still the utility of having a flying unit with mass and poison I feel is pretty good. So now we're trying to goon Katarine. This is going to be the next kind of play here, because I know if Katarine's kind of chilling with the bears and just fighting, it's going to be really tough to win. And the elemental bears absolutely slapping my soul grinder there, while the cultists move across and just trying to hunt this thing down. The soul grinder is one of my better tools for sure for hunting down faster characters with 75 speed. Katarine isn't slow. Even on foot, for some reason, she's got 46 speed, which I think is because she like levitates on the ice and kind of floats around all magically and whatnot. So I think that is one of the big reasons why she is so incredibly swift. But Soul Grinder of Nurgle is Tokyo drifting on away. It looks like there's going to be a Breath Attack from a bear, maybe a Death Frost, which is also a very good choice. Death Frost here is quite useful. It is going to do some decent single target damage, and the Soul Grinder will not enjoy that, as I think I'm more or less out of heals at this point. So waddling after its arena, and this is starting to really feel like a Warhammer 2 match, right? Warhammer 2, like most games, came down to just disgusting SEM blobs, and I feel like that meta has kind of followed us over to Warhammer 3. Although that's one of the big things about domination that's pretty cool is you don't run into that as much. I mean, you do sometimes see it in the beginning, but the wider builds tend to do a little bit better than they do in land battles. But again, once we get like dwarves with like a 20 stack of guns, Vampire Coast, I think we're not gonna. The meta's gonna be really wild once we get the old world factions added back in. So Katarine getting attacked here, and I believe there's going to be some witchcraft going down, maybe another Death Frost. The bears turn around, do start nibbling on the old Soul Grinder. Definitely don't want this. 4,900. The Plague Drones, I believe we're able to chase off some Kossars. Maybe we withdraw at this point. I think I was trying to get a surround on Katarine. Can't quite remember the circumstances of that. But look at the bear getting beaten down. Its armor being sundered by the cultists, and the Great Unclean One I think is one of the big players here, and he really has to work super hard to drag it down. He's the carry, 100%. Like, very weak to the missiles, but since we deleted most of the Kislev missiles with our Brass and our Dive and our Mortars from the Soul Grinder here, which is now ripping some pretty good shots in melee, I think that really paid huge dividends here. So Crystal Sanctuary is going to go down, which will give this beast 60% ward save, and it can't move. I don't know if I noticed this during the game, and now it's starting to kind of bite me a little bit as the Great Unclean One is getting beaten up pretty badly, actually. The double bears plus the Death Frost is quite a bit of DPS, but my two little cultists, I mean, I guess the 60% mitigation on their damage profile is pretty good, but, you know, they're still poking, still causing some problems, while the Soul Grinder does go after Katarine, trying to take down the Tsarina. Kislev, was that his... Oh, that was pretty cool. You see that? She, like, lifted a glacier out of this non-frozen field and slapped that Soul Grinder right on the old belly. So still battling the bears. Great Unclean One's at 6,000 HP. This bear's at 3,300, and the other one's at 8,000. But the cultists still going strong. 5,000 HP, give or take. Looks like 4,600, and they do have the passive healing as well. And Katarine came a little bit danger close to the big Chungus, so I thought about turning around here, but the bears do have Frostbite, so I didn't think I'd be able to catch her, but there is an opportunity here. She is kind of getting poisoned and stunned to get in there, and here comes the bell, the big uppercut, and Tsarina Katarine looking very close to breaking. That, at the very least, is going to be triggering the passive, which is quite nice, and now the big Chungus is going to be chasing down Katarine, and we'll also be grabbing the flyers to move over there and go after that. Now, Soul Grinder and the cultists beating down the big bear here. Katarine's on the run, and I should have had the Soul Grinder keep chasing Katarine, and the Exalted Great Unclean One come back here to fight. That was a big mistake in terms of my micro, which, you know, could have, in a more dangerous situation, cost me the game. But the Elemental Bear here, obviously not up to the task of battling the Cultist Goon Squad that continued to claw away. A big part of it was killing the Patriarchs or the Patriarch. And there was only one as well. If we hadn't killed the Patriarch and he was just giving these fat heals to these bears, it would be exponentially harder. So Soul Grinder is going to be hunting down Katarine, who appears to have healed somehow. I'm not quite sure. One of the bears has fallen, and now you can see the forces of Nurgle move in. I was saving a summon for the back pocket just to have some buffering in the late game when it was really close to try and trigger army losses there. And the Elemental Bear is now just going to be circle beaten. So GG, well played. This was from a kind of a tournament-style best-of-3 on Anticity's Ladder, and I was pretty happy to get a victory against the forces of Kislev, which are very strong, top-tier land battle faction. And I would say Kislev is even, like, yeah, top-tier. I don't think they're as good as Ogres and Tzeentch in land battles, but it depends. If you have restrictions on, like, Pendulum and a couple other things, like on Gorgers, then I think maybe Kislev might be as strong as... although, I don't know. Intuitively, I think in land battles, Kislev is an S-tier faction. I think they're for sure S-tier. They're very strong. A lot of really like cheesy strategies with the double bear or the bear sled abuse. Whereas on domination, I would still probably say Kislev is like an A+ tier faction. I think they're better than Khorne, which is an A tier faction in my opinion, but I don't think they're quite as good as Tzeentch. And what Ogres can do on domination is crazy. With the Noblar capture weight, Ogres having 54 speed and just like bringing so much to the table. But well played to my opponent. Really fun match. Big Chungus carried. Cultist did really good. Exalted Plague Bearers kind of got punished, but you know, had he gone for more of like the Haggard box that has like Darguard and like no missiles, and I feel like the Exalted Plague Bearers could have done well. And yeah, the big guy did decently as well. For him, yeah, sleds, look at that. 1,500, 1,400, crazy good. 1,200. The Bears didn't quite pay for themselves. That was the big winning factor in that game. So GG to my opponent. We'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves, and that is it for now.